Hello and welcome to Collector's Impact. I'm DK, and today I have brought you to the field of decimation and despair, as we'll call it, because PSA has decided to double their prices. So I figured that it was pretty fitting to bring you to this barren landscape of oppression here with Urza's mine, tower, and power plant being watched over by, I think that's Karn, but we'll, Nah, I'm mildly joking here. There's a lot to say about this change, actually, so I just figured that I would go ahead and make a video and give my 2 cents on the topic, since it's what's on everybody's mind right now. So for anyone who may be unaware, PSA today, March the 1st, 2021, they have decided to double all of their prices for the majority of their tiers. So that includes things such as bulk submission, which you had to be a silver member or higher in order to get that anyway, which I believe they now charge you like $100 to become a silver member, and you don't get any sort of vouchers or credits on your account. You just pay them $100, and that gives you access to things like the bulk tier submission. So they doubled that. Bulk is essentially what economy used to be with a longer wait time now. So bulk is $20 per card for things like trading cards, which is what I specialize in. Of course, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, things of that nature are $20 a card. Things like the Marvel trading cards would also qualify as being $20 a card, whereas any sort of modern sports cards, those would be ultra modern tier, so things like a Zion Williamson rookie card or something of that nature, Ja Morant, any of those popular players that you want to get their rookies graded, that would be $25 minimum under the new tiers because of their year of publication. And then standard submissions went from $50 to $100. With standard, it currently has a turnaround time of about 2 months. So you send in one card for $100, or 3 cards for $300 or whatever now, and you'll get them back in 2 months. So standard is now $100 a card to grade, and the Express, which is one of the ones that I kind of like to use for the more high dollar cards, that has gone from $75 to $150. So effectively, they've doubled pretty much everything except for the Super Express, went from $200 to $300, and like the walkthrough tier, which is where you fly to California and you go up to them in person with a card that's just so near and dear to you that you have to grade it in person. That would probably be used for something like a Michael Jordan rookie card or something that's in the many tens of thousands of dollars in high grade. So that went from $500 to $600. Anyway, so what I wanted to talk about here are pretty much my thoughts on these updates to the pricing and what I think could happen to the trading card space, especially when it comes to graded cards in the short term and in the long term. So let's see. Here is a visual representation, at least, of what the deal is with PSA, at least in my opinion. So you got here, Stop That, from Unglued, or from Unhinged. Yeah, this is from Unhinged. I get the uns mixed up. Anyway, you've got the card Stop That here, and you see this player here is they're just jamming cards up in their face because the flow of the cards coming at PSA is who this player represents, is just out of this world right now because of the popularity of grading and people trying to enter the flip game. They just can't handle the volume of cards. So that is a visual representation of what they're looking like over there. So in response to this, today they have unleashed the rod of spanking upon us. And with the rod of spanking, it deals a damage to you, and then it untaps again to deal some more damage to you unless you tell them, "Thank you, sir, may I have another?" So that's kind of where we're at right now with PSA. I mean, anyone out there who's a small collector without a whole bunch of money to throw at PSA, that's us today. But in all seriousness, I mean, they do have their reasons for doing it, I'm sure. There are a lot of theories floating around out there. So it depends on how optimistic or pessimistic you want to get with the viewpoint, or, you know, another way of saying it would be how realistic, or being a realist rather, versus, you know, thinking more positively about it or giving them the benefit of the doubt. So giving them the benefit of the doubt, yeah, basically their volume is just too high. They've got way too big of a backlog. They have, you know, they're almost a year backed up now for bulk, maybe even longer actually, for the bulk submissions, because they just kept accepting them at a pretty reasonable price for months on end after they canceled the economy service. So people were still sending in their would-be economy orders in many cases into bulk. So they've gotten just piles and piles and piles of cards in. And as a response to that, they've gone ahead and raised these prices to where they're essentially unattainable for most people out there that are doing direct submissions. It makes them completely just pointless, really, if you're trying to do the flipping game on regular cards. And regular cards can mean a lot of different things. I have some examples here of some cards we'll go through and what I think the impact is and could be for things like them. But that's more of the optimistic viewpoint, giving them the benefit of the doubt. And essentially they raise these prices to deter people from submitting cards, so then they can work through the backlog. And once the backlog is at a reasonable place, especially since they've been ramping up production, they've hired a bunch of people, a bunch of graders, they've doubled their facility space. I mean, they've taken a lot of initiatives to increase their volume output, and yet they've still been getting inundated with orders. So optimistically, what they would do is work through that backlog, at least to a comfortable level, and then lower the prices again. That's what they would do. That's what they should do if this is an honest move on their part to try and, you know, curb the issue that they've been experiencing with high volume, and to really catch up and do a service to their customers who've already sent in stuff that have been waiting a year for it. They really need to get to it, and this is their way of doing it. Now, obviously, in order for that to be true in the future, they have to lower the prices again. So we're going to see where it lands with that. I can tell you that typically when companies raise their rates or raise their prices and they get comfortable with that revenue and the projection stream based around the new revenue and all of that, they don't tend to lower their prices again, at least not very often, especially when it's a service-based company. You can think of something like your power bill, you know, or like the water bill or something like that. They always go, oh, it's drought season, we're experiencing a drought, so we're going to raise your water bill to cover expenses. Left kind of in the air of what that means, and you're like, oh, whatever. So they raise the water bill, it never goes down. From that point on, it just is what it is. It's kind of encompassed in inflation and in your cost of living expenses from that point, really. I haven't experienced it where things go down. The insurance companies, you know, the car companies, they, you know, we got to raise your rate because there's more drivers in your area, there's more accidents. So even though you haven't had any accidents, your rate has to go up because there's more people. So on and so forth. We've seen this across the board all throughout life. At this point, anyone who's adulting knows this. So, so thinking pessimistically, they might not lower the rates again. This could be the new normal. And what would be their incentive for doing that? Well, pessimistically, greed. Yeah, I mean, I haven't made up my mind either way. I'm just sharing opinions and thoughts that have come to my mind as well, obviously. But I haven't personally made up a true decision on what I think. I think that I have to analyze this long term and see how they approach the situation over the next 12 months. I have to see how everything unfolds before I can really say with a definitive sort of guess, at least, a definitive guess, you know, before I can really say with any sort of certainty in my mind, at least, that they did it for the right reason or for the greed reason, which, depending on your outlook, could be a right reason too. You know, whatever, I'll leave that up to you guys. But yeah, it could be for greed, that essentially they see the secondary market going insane. The cards, I mean, you can take like, I mean, in Pokemon, for example, we'll go ahead and just use this as an example card. This Haunch Crow from Unbroken Bonds, right? There's this is a PSA 10, obviously. Haunch Crow full art. So it isn't the secret rare, but it's the full art. This card on the current market is around $100, give or take 20 bucks. Last I checked, at least. So this card a year ago was about $35, so it's gone up significantly. Granted, more time has gone by. This card's from 2019, it's 2021. Supply is limited, it's out of print. All of those kind of situations factor into a price increase. But also the demand for graded PSA 10 Gem Mint Pokemon cards is through the roof right now. So they're trying to potentially capture some of the revenue that an individual like myself would be making by getting this card, the raw card, graded, which at the time was about a $10 card, and then you turn around and grade it for $10 using the bulk service. So you're $20 in, and then you can flip it for, you know, $50 to $100 depending on market condition and actually make some profit. But now it's going to cost you $20 to grade it. You have to wait a year, or you can pay $100 and get it within 2 months. And at $100, when the card sells for $100, it's completely pointless. So going into the optimistic viewpoint, that might be the entire point. They don't want you to send Haunch Crow. They don't want you to grade it. They don't want you to flip it because they want to work through their backlog. Or, you know, they only want you to grade expensive stuff so that they can claim a little bit of the pie, depending on how you look at it. So, with those concepts out of the way, let's go ahead and look at a few of these cards, for example. So I mentioned the Haunch Crow, of course. This one it is now pointless to grade for the most part, unless you want to wait a year for it. Another thing that I wanted to discuss is let's look at this this ultra-modern Zion Williamson. So just imagine that you open a pack of hoops, for whatever reason, you open a pack of hoops and you pull this Zion Williamson. And you inspect it over, you look at the card, and you're like, oh my god, this is beautiful. Card is so nice. I think it's got to be a 10, you know, kind of a situation. There's no issues with it, which for a lot of the 9s and 10s with PSA, it's honestly pretty hard to tell the difference between a 9 and a 10. Sometimes you can tell, again, pessimistically speaking here, sometimes you can tell that they just rate certain things a 9 and others a 10 to get the ratio in their system. Maybe there's no, you know, I mean, I'm sure there's some reason that this is a 9 and not a 10. Maybe it's got some various alignment issue or a little teeny tiny nick somewhere on it that I can't see with my untrained eye, and they can with their grading trained eye. But the point is, if you open a pack of hoops and you send in this Zion Williamson and you pay $100 because you're thinking it's a 10, and then you're going to flip it on the market for $150 to $175, so you're like, well, whatever, you know, it's a lot of upfront cost, but I'll make 70 bucks or whatever, $50. I'll get to pocket in that endeavor, and then it comes back a 9. Well, not only did you pay an exorbitant grading fee, but you lost money because this PSA 9 in the current market is only going for around $50 or $60. So you pay $100 for a $60 card. Once again, really not worth your effort, unless it's like a base prism of Zion Williamson's rookie, which good luck finding a box of that. They're around $1,300 to $1,500 a box. So you've either already got to have it, or whatever your situation is, I don't know, but it's just pretty much worthless to send in some of these cards under this current pricing scale. Looking at this Magic card, same exact situation. This is a PSA 10, which is awesome. It's an alternate art of this Kiora, however you pronounce that, Behemoth, and then it's abbreviated, so I don't even know what the other word's supposed to be, Beckoner or something. But anyway, so you've got this Japanese alternate art Planeswalker uncommon card from War of the Spark. Even in economy, this is not worth grading. At $20 a card, plus the shipping and handling, you're looking at 25 bucks, when this card right here, at least currently in the market, is worth about 30 bucks in PSA 10. So, yeah, that's really just not worth grading. Now, okay, and then one last example here would be something like Scheherazade from Arabian Nights here, but this is a PSA 6. This came back a PSA 6. So if it came back a PSA 10 or 9, obviously it would be worth that $100 to send it in. But, you know, at the $50 price point, I personally found it worth getting slabbed and graded, preserved. But at a $100 price point, that kind of eats away at any sort of profit margin that if you really needed to, let's just say an emergency came up, you need to flip this card and get some money out of it, and you would preferably not like to lose any money, that $100 price point is definitely, on a PSA 6, it's just, you'd only grade it if you're passionate about the card and you want it to be preserved. Otherwise, it just isn't worth it right now. So those are some clear examples of that. Now, one of the things that you may be interested in is, you know, do you think that the cards will increase in value? The cards that are already graded. We've got some PSA 10s here and some stuff. Is this card, now that the price went up, is it going to go from a market value of $30 to $40 or $50 to compensate for that price increase? And that, I obviously do not know. We're going to have to see how the market works itself out. But I will tell you, my theory at the moment is that in the short term, the prices will not increase on the graded cards. And there's a pretty specific reason. That is that there's a ton of cards still in their backlog. If they were starting from scratch, essentially, and the entire market was already accounted for with all of the graded cards from PSA in existence already in the population report and already distributed through the various channels and people buying the cards, it would be a different formula to look at, where you could be like, okay, now that the cost has gone up, you know, to grade the cards, the cost of the graded cards is going to go up. And that's just, there are many factors involved that make it to where that's probably not the case. So with their backlog, they've got probably 1 million or more cards at this point, being a year behind, and all of those bulk orders, they've got 1 million or so cards that haven't even been graded or added to the population report. Plus, those cards are grandfathered in terms of the pricing structure. So whatever you signed up for at the time of submission is what they're going to charge you, unless they decide to upcharge you on a few of the cards based on their value, which I don't know how they even deal with that. For example, I sent in an order of 100 Pokemon cards back in, oh my god, June, I think. June or July of 2020, and at that time those cards were worth nowhere near what they're worth today in terms of their graded condition. If any of them come back 9s or 10s, they're worth a lot more than they were when I sent them in. So I wasn't being dishonest when I sent them in. I didn't lowball on the sheet or whatever stating the value. They've just gone up so much. So I don't know if they will take that into account of the market value when you sent it or the market value when they grade it and send it back. Somebody, if any of you know how that part works, please leave it in the comment section, because I'm curious about it, as I have a lot of outstanding cards with PSA. But anyway, that's my theory as to the current, like what will happen right now. Right now, I don't foresee the prices of the grading cards going up. And a part of me is wondering if the graded card prices will actually come down. You know, we've known that this market is a bit volatile, obviously. For many years it's been a volatile market, but right now, especially with the 2020 situation and then the explosion in these prices and in the desire for the graded cards and people wanting to park money in them, invest in them, and just have fun with them as well. So this could be a catalyst. This price increase that's going to price out pretty much all of the Timmys, Jimmys, and Kimmys out there. I'll include myself in that. You know, I'm just doing this casually. I do have a full-time gig. I'm not, this is not my source of income. I'm a hobbyist, and I do like the game and the flipping and all of that stuff, but the high exorbitant prices is going to have an impact on how many cards I submit and what type of cards I submit. And with that may be a catalyst for a negative sentiment in the market. And with a negative sentiment in the market, people in large, there may be an exodus from the hobby, at least temporarily, until things calm down. And if that happens, demand for the cards might actually sink as well. Supply is going to increase pretty steadily over these next few months with them working through the backlog, and the demand, with a negative sentiment towards the graded cards and the inability to flip, may cause it may cause that rubber band effect where it just may have an impact on the prices in a way that may not be expected, at least initially. You'd think that it would drive them up, but it might have the opposite effect. Prices might start coming down, the hype might be over, there might be a sentiment of, quote, the gravy train has ended, kind of a thing, let's find the next thing to chase after, and maybe GameStop stock will go up again. I don't know. I'm just talking here. I'm just brainstorming. So whatever you guys think, let me know in the comment section what you think about these theories, or please share your own theory, as I'm really just kind of, I am speaking from experience here, but this is uncharted territory when it comes to the graded cards and the demand that has been present in this market, and what this move and the precedent that it is going to set is going to do to the industry. It's really an interesting thing. I honestly, I don't fully know what to think about it yet, but anyway, I've rambled on and shared a lot of thoughts, so please let me know your thoughts and let me know what you think about all of that. And one last thing that I would like to say about the graded cards, this is obviously, PSA is the #1 in the industry right now. They're the #1 most desired. But there are some competitors out there. And CGC is a pretty up-and-coming competitor, at least for trading cards. They grade Pokemon and they grade Magic cards. But the issue here with CGC, now this is my humble opinion. You guys don't, this isn't fact or whatever. This is my opinion and based on observations. They just don't look as good as PSA. And so you've got this label here. There's a lot of controversy around the label. It's rather plain. They really could have done a better job with the label. Presentation is key when it comes to graded cards. Now, I will say that CGC's cases are beautiful. They're clearer than PSA. PSA uses this kind of fuzzy, plastic here, but the plastic that shows and displays the card is crystal clear. So it is nice, but you've got like this frosted effect all around the card. Whereas CGC, you have a clear effect all around the card. So it's suspended in this beautiful acrylic clear case. So there's your pluses and negatives when it comes to the case on a competitor, a really good up-and-coming competitor. But another issue with CGC is their actual grading scale. So CGC works on a 0.5 grading scale instead of a single numbers grading scale like PSA. It's very common for them to issue a 9.5 for what would be a PSA 10 card if you were to send it to PSA. And the market, based on their desires and their, they speak with their wallets. If you look up any sort of sales data, the 9.5s go for less than PSA 10s of the same card every time. It's not even 9 out of 10, it's every time. The 9.5s sell for less, even though theoretically they could be the exact same condition. That's a problem. That's a problem, and honestly, I think that CGC should address that. Speaking from corporate experience here and dealing with corporate profits and margins and all that kind of stuff, if they switched to a 10-point scale and actually were a 1-to-1 competitor with PSA, and the quality of the grading was notable to be the same, and they issued CGC 10s, so you could have a CGC 10 or a PSA 10, that would solve it right there. There may be a little discrepancy in the pricing, but I guarantee you that would make a huge difference in the secondary market, and more people would flock to CGC. So CGC, if anyone out there from CGC is actually watching this video, highly doubt it, but if you are, that is a serious thing that you guys should really consider doing. Beckett does the same 0.5 grading scale, and it's just not as desired to have a 9.5 Beckett or a 9.5 CGC. I know this is 4.5, obviously, but for the example of the conversation, people would pretty much assume that that's a PSA 9. Or even if they know with general or with the actual knowledge they know that it could be comparable to a PSA 10, the fact that it says 9.5 is a psychological barrier. It just is. So seriously, CGC and Beckett, fix your stuff and start grading with 10s with a 1-point scale. You will get twice the business within months. I could pretty much guarantee that. So with that said, also now when it comes to the grading scale and the quality of the graded card with CGC, I've seen lots of videos on this subject, and I've experienced it myself, where you do some side-by-side comparisons of, say, 9.5 CGC and a 10 PSA, and you do side-by-side and really look and analyze the cards. They're pretty comparable. They really are. They do a great job all the way up to 9.0. 9.0 CGC versus a PSA 9 and a Beckett 9 are all pretty much the exact same quality. Then they start to differ. CGC is more lenient with their grading when it comes to these lower scales. And that's why I'm holding this and I'm here to show you about it. So this Charizard, this Dark Charizard First Edition foil, I feel ripped off in total honesty. When I bought this, it's a 4.5. So on a PSA grading scale, a 4.5 or a 4 or a 5 would be played, obviously, but there would be no creases. There's no creases, no bends or things of that nature at a 4 or a 5. That doesn't start to come into play until 3, and it most likely, from my personal experience, drops it down to a 2 if there is a crease mark. It's pretty much an automatic 2, and in a rare case, it's a 3, PSA 3. But with CGC, let's see if I can get this to focus. Let's see if I can show you this. This card, okay, you can kind of see it here. Right here, if it'll focus, there is a gigantic crease that runs all the way through this Charizard. You can see it better there. This crease, this card was actually folded and then flattened back out. It does not deserve a 4.5. PSA would never give this card a 4.5, a 4, or 5, or whatever. This would always be a 2. And with some of PSA's crazy grading, it could likely be a 1 with that bad of a crease. So that's my 2 cents when it comes to the lower graded points from CGC and the competitors. They're just not as brutally honest as PSA. Take that for what you will. I don't know if you like that or don't like that, but the market speaks to PSA always holding the highest price tags. I think that definitely could change. PSA can be dethroned because of these moves. They really can. And a CGC could do it, but they have to change as well. You know, you can't just have them stay constant and have these guys just messing around. The CGC has to go to a 10-point scale if they really want to capture the business and become a market leader. That's my 2 cents. I could be wrong. Please share your opinion on that in the comments section. I'm interested to see what you guys think. But anyway, I've gone on long enough about this. If you made it all the way through the video, I really appreciate that, as I know that I'm kind of long-winded, but there was a lot to say about this. So, you know, at the end here, it is going to affect what I submit to PSA for sure. I'm not going to be submitting as much junk or speculative cards. I may submit 1 or 2, as I did have some in mind. I was going to play some DC cards to go in line with the Marvel cards. Oh yeah, and as a bonus here at the video, when it comes specifically to Marvel trading cards and things of that nature, I think that this could potentially have a positive impact on the pricing in terms of keeping the prices high and not allowing them to retrace significantly. The key reason for that is less people are going to be inclined to pay $100 to send in a freaking 1990 Wolverine or something of that nature. So even though the current market value is pretty high on that card, there's going to still remain a more limited supply than what probably would have hit the market if they didn't do this price increase. I would have assumed that over the next 3 to 6 months you would see more Marvel cards showing up, and you will see more Marvel cards showing up, there's no doubt. But there probably won't be as many as there would have been had they kept the prices the same, at least until the middle of the year in June. I think that it really rained on a bunch of people's parade, and because of that, there's going to be less supply, and those Marvel cards are going to retain a high value. So that's my little bonus content there. Anyway, let me know what you guys think of this in the comment section, please. If you like the video, definitely please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And if you like this type of content and want to see more PSA graded stuff and hear about all this kind of fun stuff in the collectible sphere, please subscribe to the channel. I'd love to see you on the subscriber list. So thank you very much and have a good day.